Hi, Bob.
Oops,
Evening.
that wasn't me.
It's,
Hello, everybody. We're going to open up the meeting now. So I call the meeting to order. Seat Justin for Rich Napolitano for the time being. Any additions or changes to the agenda, Paula?
no, there is not.
Okay. The minutes of the meeting of April 26, 21. Any corrections, changes?
Yes, Rick.
Okay.
Under the section that talks about the zoning enforcement officer and the list of violations,
Okay.
I think during that discussion, I had requested that the ZEO attend this meeting.
You did. What I said, conveyed to Paula after the meeting, I told her we would like to review a list of open enforcement actions and then decide whether or not we really needed the zoning enforcement officer to attend. I spoke with Mark about it. She's kind of at the limit of the number of hours that she can work in a week. So let's form a perspective after we review everything as a group, okay?
All right.
Okay.
When were we gonna do this?
Yeah, are you asking that the minutes reflect that you asked, or are you?
No,
I
I'm
did-
fine with that, but when are we going to review the list?
I had asked that we have it this evening.
It's not on the agenda for tonight.
And be under communications and reports without being listed.
Okay.
And do we have that? I was looking through the documents that we received here.
No, I did not include that in the packet for the simple reason that it's for legal reasons. It should be confidential with just the members only.
About open enforcement actions.
Yes,
Then that hasn't been sent to the members?
yes, it has been sent to the members directly, but not part of the
thought that was-
packet. It was sent,
I have a question.
it was sent 2 weeks ago.
I thought
Okay.
that was public information, no?
Not when it's legal not when it's a potential legal obligation.
Oh, okay.
And some on the list are, some are not at this point.
If you thought that was something we shouldn't discuss in public and we should go into executive session, we probably should have added that to our agenda.
You can still add it. You can go back to item 3.
Understood. Is that the member's pleasure? Bob?
I'd like to get going on that.
Okay, then let me modify the agenda. I'll go back to item 3. I'll make a motion that we, under item 3, that we amend our agenda to go item 9A added, which will send us into executive session where we can discuss the open enforcement actions.
It'll be under under legal discussion.
Well, we'll call it item 9A. We can
Okay,
think. So do I have a second to that?
Second.
Yeah, I'm not sure who that was.
That was
I think
Alex.
Bob was in there first.
Oh.
Oh, Bob.
Any discussion on the modification to the agenda? All those in favor, please raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
The rest are affirmative. Anyone voting against? Any abstentions? That would be unanimous on that vote to modify the agenda.
Rich is here. So
Rich and Justin, you will then now be seated for
Larry,
And
Larry Preston.
who is
Okay.
Larry's
here.
on. Larry is on.
I abstained because I didn't hear the beginning, so.
All right. So is Larry also in the meeting?
Yeah, I'm here. I had technical difficulties.
Okay, so do we have any regular members who are not present now?
No,
No,
no.
Okay, Justin,
You're on
Chime
seat.
in whenever you want. You know how I like view
Okay,
you in.
I'll watch as a member of the public then. Thank you.
Okay, so that being said, we're going to the minutes of April 26, 2021. Bob, would you like to see them accepted as presented or modified in any way?
As presented,
Pardon me?
accepted as presented.
Okay, so I'll make that motion that we accept it. Bob, you'll second that?
Yes, I will.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor, aye, or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Everyone, any abstentions?
I wasn't here last time, Rick.
Okay, so Tom, you abstain, any nays? Okay, so that would be all in favor except for Tom who abstained. Okay, next up, audience of citizens. Is there anything anyone would like to bring up to us that is not already on our agenda? Okay, we'll move into it. We will move out of our meeting into a public hearing mode. We're going to open a public hearing for Hop River LLC, a 4-lot subdivision application on Hop River Road. Property address is 127 Route 6, Assessors Map 8, Lot 16A. That said, how are we going to handle this? Mr. Wentworth, are you going to speak to make the presentation for the owners, or is there someone else to speak for them?
Yes, good evening. I would be presenting tonight.
So you're on.
Okay, for the record, Wes Wentworth, Wentworth Civil Engineers. I'm a professional engineer and soil scientist from Lebanon, Connecticut. I'm here on behalf of Hop River LLC, is the owner and applicant, which is the Giuliano family. Should I share a screen as far as maps, or how have you been handling that?
Yeah, go ahead. I think sharing the screen is the most effective way.
Yeah, I think so too. So, just give me a moment here. Can't get out a full screen. There we go. So let's try that. Bear with me a moment. Why is this not coming up for me?
You want me to share those maps, Wes?
I think so. I apologize. For some reason, every map I have except the one I need is coming up as a choice.
Okay, hold on just a second.
That'd be great. Go to sheet 2. That would be perfect. Well,
Thank you, Flo.
You're welcome. And which sheet would you like?
that right there is perfect for
There,
now.
okay.
Thank you. This is a sheet 2 in the subdivision plan. To orient you, north is up on this page. This is a 1 inch equals 80 overall map of the entire property. Route 6 runs along the bottom or the south end of the property. And it's located on the corner of Hop River Road, which runs along the westerly side of the property, runs northerly up until it almost to where it crosses the river into Coventry at the bridge. So in about 15 years ago, the family split out the existing brick house that was Mr. Giuliano's via free split. So that parcel is in the bottom third there, just coming up from Route 6. So that property is actually out of this already. So what we're proposing is is a 4-lot subdivision. At the very south end is Lot 1. That consists of 2 existing homes that predate zoning and subdivision regulations in Columbia. They're a little bit farther south there. Each of those is a duplex unit. Those would be on Lot 1 and just essentially remain in the way that they are. There's also an existing barn on that lot that at this point we would have being retained in case a future purchaser wanted to fix it up. It's a block wall structure, so the walls are sound, but the roof is falling in. So that's what we're proposing there. In addition to that 1 lot with the 2 homes on it, we are proposing 3 new building lots in the center western portion of the frontage along the curve of Hop River Road. And those would all be front lots. Lots 2 and 4 would be approximately 1.2 acres. And lot 3 would be approximately 13 acres in size. All would be serviced by on-site septic systems and on-site wells. We've also designed erosion and sedimentation controls for the new constructions. It's really just very gravelly soils in here. Excellent soils for both the on-site septic and also for the same reason, very low possibilities of any erosion and sedimentation during construction. It's very flat and very pervious because of the gravelly type soils. So very low potential for erosion concerns on those 3 new lots. As far as town open space, there's this parcel has a large amount of frontage along the Hop River on the northerly end. There's an old historic mill site in that area, and we are proposing 3.6 acres, which exceeds the 15% minimum as set by the subdivision regulations. And that would have frontage down on Hop River Road for access into the site and end up with about 3/4 or more of the existing river frontage would be retained as town-owned open space. So that could be used for not only historic purposes, but for active recreational purposes. It's a beautiful river frontage down there. It's has nice flat access to it, to the land itself from the road and also from the land to the river. So it has a lot of nice potential for recreational use for the town residents in the future. We are retaining the eastern frontage, which would be part of Lot 3, the eastern frontage of the Hop River. That is cut off by a large wetland system to the rear of Lot 3, so you wouldn't be able to get to that river frontage because of a very, very large swamp. There's steep slopes and a large swamp to get there. So what we're proposing is to retain 25 feet of frontage just south of the town open space frontage that would allow access to the Lot 3 frontage in the northeast corner. So I hope that's clear what I just said there. I'll say it one more time in case, but just south of the town open space frontage, we're retaining 25 feet for Lot 3 because Lot 3 would be able to get in that area and not be cut off from its river frontage by wetlands in that immediate vicinity. So that's why we're proposing that. As far as fire protection, we've been in contact with the fire chief, assistant fire chief. They've been good enough to meet with the town administrator, and rather than going with an on-site cistern system or an on-site dry well, I've already said we have very gravelly conditions, so we can't simply just dig a pond. There's a new bridge proposal that is coming through as a town project to cross the Hop River, and what the chief and the town administrator came to feel was the best suggestion was to, once that's built, have the applicant pay for or install a dry hydrant to the river on that bridge that would provide them the best access to water. So the applicant has agreed to that. We can discuss how that would, because that is a future, it doesn't make sense to put the dry hydrant in now, and the bridge is going to be torn out in short order and replaced in the near future, but I don't know the timing of that exactly. We'd be willing to post a bond suitable to the fire chief to cover that expense, if that makes sense to everybody. Or we'd be open to other suggestions, but we would be in favor of doing that, and certainly thank all the town staff on working with us on that. It seems like a very logical solution to end up with something brand new on a brand new bridge with a large water source there. So that's good for this and the whole neighborhood. We have received approval from the Inland Wetlands Commission. We have activity only in the upland review areas, no activity in the wetlands. Received approval, review and approval from the Eastern Highland Health Districts for on-site septics and on-site wells. Also had review and approval from the Columbia Open Space Committee, which is also, I believe, the Conservation and Agricultural Commission. They've reviewed this and are in support of the open space donation as presented. So that's all I have. There are a few tricky things here, so if I didn't explain things quite well enough with the virtual format, I'd be glad to take any questions or try to re-explain things if necessary.
Any comments from the town planner? And then I'm gonna open it up to questions from the commission, then questions from the public.
I have a comment in terms of the proper notification of the public hearing was made per the Governor Lamont's executive orders for how notifications can be made. The sign was placed on the property. There was also letters were sent out to, I don't remember how many, Wes, were sent out for letters.
I did 2 different ones that week, but I believe it was 23 people, everyone within the required radius. I believe it's 500 feet.
It is 500 feet for the subdivisions. Wes, one of the things I think would be helpful if you, because we have a couple other sticky points that we learned about recently. One was the cart path, and the other is the encroachment of the building. If you could pull up that map, then you actually might be able to point.
Yeah,
Oh, you don't have that map.
I don't have it. Oh, okay.
I believe I have it here.
So Flo, you're going to need to,
Stop.
yeah.
Can everybody see this? Is this working?
Yay.
Here we go.
That one working.
Okay.
So,
So you can point, and this one also, you might be able to do a little bit better job of pointing as to where the high ground is for the lot 3 property.
okay. So this is the actual subdivision map as prepared by Rob Hellstrom's office. He's the land surveyor of record here. It's to the same scale as the overall map that I had been showing, but I'm going to zoom in on a couple areas. First off, over here along to the east is land shown as now formerly Daniel G. Newmack and Donna Newmack. And they had, and jump in and correct me if I'm wrong, Paul, but they notified the town staff that they are of the opinion that there's an existing cart path right away that runs through here up from Hop River Road, follows easterly, parallels the river up to their property there, basically providing them access to the rear of their property over the subject property. We did some research, and the Giuliani's years ago had hired Mike Healy, who's a local land surveyor, to do the survey for them. And we provided that map to the town. He did extensive research and had very good notes and explanations of his research on that. We have included those notes on the subdivision for reference. What it says in layman's terms is that he did research and he could find no evidence in the town land records where the current owner or any past owner of this subject property deeded a right-of-way across this land and gave it to the land now owned by the Newmacks. He does go on to say that he did find a couple references on the Newmack land where those deeds refer to a cart path out to Hop River Road. However, when you're involved in these type of things, the important golden rule is, was it ever granted by the owner over whose land the easement is? And that's what he specifically said he could find no evidence of. I believe at the time, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Paul, that there's been no evidence provided by the abutting owners as to any paperwork or land records or mapping that show that right of way was ever granted to that land to the east. So there is no
No.
cart path there, but according to past surveying, that no rights, there was no evidence of those rights existing.
Mr.
Do you know
Newmack,
what-
Flo actually talked to Mr. Newmack,
Yeah.
and I think I believe he told Flo that his mother owned that land
His
and
grandmother.
gave him the path to cross it.
It was his grandmother, Paula.
There's no evidence of that in the Columbia.
I'm just passing on what the information that he gave us.
Mhm.
So that was the first thing that's came up late last week from abutting neighbors. Secondly, we on the initial subdivision plan, we've errantly not shown this existing barn over here, which is on the rear of land of Arthur J.F. Gamache. He, I believe, owns a home and across the street, and this is a vacant parcel to mowed field or lawn area across from his home. And there's an existing barn to the rear of it that infringes approximately 13 feet onto this property. That was also shown on the Healy map, so it's the Giulianos have been aware of that. I spoke with Sal and he told me that at the time his father, Mr. Giuliano, kind of left it with the neighbors that, you know, we're at this point, we're not going to make you tear it down, but you know, we're not going to give you any rights to it either, you know. So they basically just kind of let it be and left it there. So it exists, it's there, it's documented and filed on past surveys. It's been there since prior to 1974, according to Mike Healy's research. So that was something that Paula had caught, and then it appeared again when we researched that Healy map. So we've resubmitted this subdivision to show both the approximate location of that cart path with the appropriate notes and the existing barn that infringes from the neighbor.
Are there solutions for the barn other than having the property owner remove? I mean, it obviously doesn't meet setbacks either.
Yeah, that's, I spoke to Sal Giuliano, who's the member of Hop River LLC, the applicant. He's not opposed to possibly giving a little land, you know, maybe 5 feet around that barn, so that they could own it and have access for maintenance around it, but would not be interested in giving 50 feet and 25 feet.
Right.
You know, that would be a little excessive. So
Well, it's not met
makes
setbacks
sense
for
to
a
the
long
commission.
time and we've not called them out on it. So it's, I think setbacks are kind of a moot point, but it would be good to have that garage, barn, whatever it is, actually on the Gamache property, whether they sell a portion of it to the Gamaches or gift 5 feet around it or something.
So
Thank you.
So there's just a barn on that Gamache property, no house?
Correct.
that's correct.
Okay, so that would be an accessory use with no residence.
Correct.
Yeah, I suspect it predates zoning, but I don't know. I haven't researched it, but
It was there in 74. I don't know.
was it there 15 years before that? I probably, but I'm not sure.
Our zoning went in 47, so.
Uh,
Right, 47.
Are you all set, Mr. Wentworth? Paula?
Certainly available for more questions.
Paula,
If you could use your hand, your palm and your arrow and show what you're talking about in terms of where the dry land is. This map very clearly shows the wetland edge.
As far as our proposed open space line.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
Here's the property line between what will be lot 3 and what will be town open space. So I'll pull this down a little bit. So this is all the main mill site, all in this area. There's a high stone retaining wall in here. The main body of the mill was in this area here. There's old foundations in place. You can see remnants of a fireplace and even the first few courses of a chimney here and there. And as far as the tail race, the water came underneath the mill and it exited right at this location, which I have at the edge of the wetlands. That's a small, I can blow that up a little here. There's a small stone head wall right here. So to the left or the northwest of that head wall is dry land, and a tunnel for water came under the mill. The inlet side to that sluiceway or underground waterway is blocked. It's not present anymore. However, the downhill side, there's this head wall, and there is some type of stone arch structure that goes under these mills foundations through here. To the east or the downstream of that head wall, probably right where my cursor runs down here all the way to the river, is the raceway or the outlet. That does have water present, but it's such a flat, long raceway. It's basically backfilled from the river because there's very little change in elevation there. So why we're proposing this property line as we are is so that the owner of lot 3, who's going to have a house over in this area, can't go across this large marsh. It's just very steep slopes in here, and it's just a very deep, very poorly drained swamp. They could go in and cross over the very end of this sluiceway. I've left about 15 feet between the top of that head wall and this property line here. And then this parallels maybe 15 feet off of that raceway or waterway, all upland. Well, it could be floodplain soils, but they're high and dry soils, not deep wetland soils, and could access down here by foot or with vehicles for maintenance or whatever, tractors, or possibly even bucket trucks or something if any trees need to be pruned. We're leaving that access to this frontage here. So that's been course of some discussion. I met with the open space committee this last Thursday morning, explained that to them, and as I said, they subsequently provided a letter accepting the open space as delineated on this plan.
Really?
Okay. Any other, Paula, are you all set with comments or questions? I'm going to open
I
this up.
am. Yeah, I am.
First. Any questions from the commission at this point?
I have a question,
I have
Rick.
a couple questions.
Okay, Bob?
Yes, talking about the underground sluiceway or raceway. I believe the Historic Society had requested that be part of the town open space. I think Judy Ortiz is here. Maybe she can speak to that a little bit later, but in reviewing their correspondence, they wanted the owner to consider having that exit for the raceway, the one that goes under the former mill, be part of the town open space.
As I just explained, we're just trying to find upland access. For instance, where this old cart path is located, which would be on the south side or opposite side of this raceway, which is an open water course, and it's at least 12 or 15 feet wide, bank to bank at the top, I'm just estimating. If you were to walk down this cart path all the way to the property line, there's no way to get to the river without crossing that raceway. So that's been the concern, is to be able to have their own deeded ownership and access to the river frontage for that future lot. So
The owners couldn't consider going over the town-owned property?
it's not optimal. I have discussed that with the owner applicant, Mr. Giuliano. If it were a access easement over the open space rather than just, we wouldn't want a situation where we would have to go approach the selectman's office every time that future owner needed to get to his land. You know, we wouldn't want to have a situation where that could be up for opinion or sways, and you know, we would want an actual easement as if it were for a driveway, say 20 feet in width or something of that nature, with unrestricted rights to pass and repass. Not optimal in our opinion, but if this is something the commission feels is that important, I reviewed Paula's wording tonight for a suggested condition of approval that alludes to actually increasing or decreasing the river frontage in the town open space to an equal amount to take a portion of that tail raceway, which is the water part, and the head wall as well. We would be open to that, but again, we would have to make it very clear that there's an unrestricted right to pass and repass, preferably over a defined easement area over the open space.
Bob, anyone else? Vera, you had a question you were going to ask?
Yeah, can you tell us what the frontage is on the other side of lot 3 on the corner there? And has anybody examined that for a sightline issue?
I have looked at it for sightlines in the field. It's my opinion that all 3 proposed driveways have adequate sightline for this road and speed here. It may need to have some vegetation cleared along its own frontage, but it owns it. The driveway would be coming off out on this along the northerly property line, I guess I'd call it. The frontage in there is 2,182. It has in excess of 200 feet of frontage along the road to that.
Okay, the other question I had was on lot 1. Are there any plans to do anything with those ex-rental units that are in the back?
We would leave that up to a future owner. The intent of the Giulianos is to sell this lot off as it is. So
my understanding was already sold. No.
That would not be the case because it doesn't exist as a lot yet. So I wouldn't be able to answer that, but no, it can't be sold yet. There could be someone interested in it, but you know, there's nothing.
Have you seen the condition of those buildings yourself?
I have, yes. Yep.
What was your opinion?
My opinion, the front house closest to Route 6.
The one, the one, not the one.
I'll walk through all the structures. 127 A and B is the house closest to Route 6. It appeared to me as though someone was living in there, I assume a tenant. The middle house right in this area is known as 127 C and D. That's another duplex. I did not go inside, but it looked very livable or close to livable with some work. Certainly not a building I would consider tearing down, especially with the ability to have a 2-family residential home in there. To the rear of that, as I stated, there's a cinder block barn. The walls all appear to be 90% there and in good condition. It would need some windows put in, some new doors and a new roof, but a very salvageable barn. Or someone could have a different opinion and want to tear them down. That would be up to the future owner, but my opinion, and not as an engineer, but just or as a person who owns real estate, it all looks very usable and salvageable. Is the approach I would probably take, depending on what my needs were.
All right, that wouldn't really agree with my opinion, and you can ask Rick what his opinion is. I believe he's been on the property as well. Those duplexes there really need to come down. I really
Well,
wouldn't call those
that's another issue.
Yeah, that's not something
habitable.
within the realm of zoning purview. That being said,
Wes-
are there any
Wes-
other questions that members of the commission have? Comments?
Well- Rick, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Wes, getting back to why that crossover was not optimal. Could you explain why it's not optimal?
As far as an easement being over the open space,
Yeah,
I could put it to you this way. You're the Planning and Zoning Commission, and for a very logical reason, you don't allow interior lots without frontage to be created in the town of Columbia.
so-
Because you don't want the hassles of landowners having to cross easements to get over to their property. So inherently, it just has the potential for some issues, nothing specific, but I think this commission could understand hesitancy, and that would be with, say, if you had an interior lot with no frontage, you'd assume there'd be only one landowner that he had to cross to get to, he or she would have to cross to get to their rear land over an access easement. Town open space is owned by, what's your population of Columbia? 7,000, 8,000 people. So it's essentially 8,000 owners you're crossing over with 8,000 opinions. So just
About 5,500.
5,500. Okay, I'm sorry. So that's all. There's just a preference of the landowner for that reason. But as I said, if this is the way the commission would rather go, as far as, owning and retaining ownership of that raceway and sluiceway, they would be amenable to it as the applicant. We leave it in the commission's hands.
Okay, any other comments or questions from commissioners? I have a few questions about, one about the proposed future dry hydrant at the river. How deep is the river where the bridge is going to be, and how far into the river? I'm concerned about water availability at the driest times of the year where it's most fire prone. How deep into the river would you potentially go with a pipe, and would it be insured on a long-term basis to have adequate water supply?
Well, I'm not a fire safety expert. I did go down and walk the bridge and look at the water. The hydrant would make sense to be located on the northwesterly side, or if you're crossing in towards Coventry, the left-hand side. Just above the bridge is an old dam that overflows and overtops. It's a spillway, and it goes across the full width of the river. As a result of that, it has created a deep portion of the river on the upstream side of that bridge. So that would be the natural place to put it, because it is the deepest part of the river within that area. In discussing this with the assistant fire chief, he told me that is the current water source when they are firefighting in this area. They do put hoses down into the river now, and that's the plan that they have, just without a hydrant there. And again, I would go on the testimony of your experts. The fire chief and the assistant fire chief reviewed this and said that a dry hydrant at that location would provide suitable, would meet the needs of your subdivision regulations for suitable water supply. So I also inspected along down where the proposed open space is, and the river is more shallow in that area. I personally would be more concerned if it wasn't at the bridge where you have that deeper water at the base of the dam.
I
So,
wasn't suggesting anywhere else. I was just asking for information on where it was proposed.
Yep.
Okay, that answers that question. The potential cart path, the notation that you, the theoretical cart path, nobody has documentation of. Can you go over what the verbiage is on the proposed subdivision plan that references that? I just want people to be aware of what's here.
I'll just read it into the record if that's okay. Might just be easiest.
That would be a great idea. I appreciate that.
This is a note one. This is copied from the Healy survey done probably in the order of 20 years ago. And it says, the cart path as depicted near the gauging station. Now, before I continue, I'll show you where the gauging station is located. It would be at near the eastern terminus of what's shown as the cart path on the south side away from the river, the south side of that sluiceway. So there's an old gauging station in there. So that's what's being referred to there. I'll start again. Cart path as depicted near the gauging station was presumed to have been used by the USGS, it's the U.S. Geological Survey, for its construction, maintenance, and ordinary access. The cart path, however, may have been used intermittently by others. Former deeds of the abutting landowners to the south, recorded in volume 18, page 88, states, together with a right-of-way from the northwest corner across and upon land of said Briggs, which is the subject parcel, now Giuliano, is discontinued. A later deed, so that's the deed of the Newmack parcel. That's the oldest deed that Mike Healy can find. He refers to that cart path as a cart path as being discontinued. It doesn't state where it was. A later deed recorded in volume 18, page 107, reasserts the claim of a right-of-way. So in other words, now a deed of Newmack is now saying there's a right-of-way there, even though a prior deed had said it was discontinued. The current deed from the estate of Nellie B. Newmack to Daniel G. Newmack and Donna Newmack, recorded in volume 135, page 330 of the Columbia Land Records, still claims said right. No grant of any easement or right-of-way could be found from the Giuliano chain of title into the Newmack chain. Nicholas Giuliano informed the undersigned that the boundary fence was breached by Theodore Newmack during the time period that the boundaries were in dispute, and that the cart path had not been used by adjoining owners during his ownership of the property. So that's Mr. Giuliano, the father. That's Nicholas Giuliano. He's quoted as saying that to Mike Healy, land surveyor, when this original survey was done.
Okay, and what's the need to put it on this document if it doesn't exist as a right of way?
Yeah,
To put the public on notice that somebody's claiming something that can't be documented?
Yeah, sometimes disclosure is the best thing you can do. It's already recorded on Mike Healy's map in the town clerk's office, so we're just bringing that reference forward so that any future owner would know that there has been a claim made in the past. But the opinion of past land surveyors is that it isn't. There was no proof that it exists, but it's
Okay, thank you. Let's see, next thing has to do with sight lines. You said vegetation needed to be cleared for the sight lines in reference to Vera's query. Is that documented on the subdivision map where the vegetation would be cleared?
no, I would just say that it just potential would need to be done. It would either have to be done within the town right away or within the lot itself. Typically, that would be handled at plot plan stage, but I can document. I'll state for the record that it's my professional opinion that our driveways as shown either have suitable sightlines or could be easily obtained through clearing land on the town right of way or their own land.
I get concerned on an older road like this where the vegetation, if only moderately trimmed, might grow back within a year. Whereas in a newer subdivision where there's shoulders that are graded with grass and seed tend to stay open for extended periods. So that's a concern of mine, and I'd like to address that in more detail when we just go into commission discussion. But I haven't been to the site, so in any event, I can't imagine that we're going to act on this evening, because I would like to visit the site and look at the sight lines myself and make sure that if we need to establish some sort of different way of removing the vegetation and replacing it with a grassy shelf area, that's in fact what we do, because I don't want to set something up to be less than optimal after a short period of time.
Certainly. The eastern shoulder of Hop River Road is predominantly grass. It is of a width I would consider, you can more or less park a car off the pavement in most areas. So it's more or less equivalent to a snow shelf, as you would say on a newer town road, but
I haven't visited, so I don't want to comment one way or the other, but I most definitely would like to look at that myself. And if our town planner has any knowledge of that, Paula, if you visited the site, any input that you would have about that would be appreciated. That might avert the need for me to visit the site other than this evening, after this evening. The next one has to do with the town conveyance, and I'm going to wait till we get testimony or comments from the Open Space Committee about the conveyance. But my question to you, Mr. Wentworth, is the land that's proposed is 157,000 square feet. That it represents what percentage of the total? About 15% that meets our
just over 15%.
So that being said, does this have any potential, if it weren't being offered as the conveyance land, to be a building site?
No, in my opinion, because if you look right here again on the screen we have going, there's a 100-year flood limit, which is established by the FEMA firm maps, the flood insurance rate maps. And that line is approximately, it changes with elevation as you go up and down the river. But the only possible area where this open space is would be in here. I think between wetlands and I think it's like elevation 268 up towards elevation 269 is your 100-year flood zone. So I would say no, that it would not
So
be.
that was a segue into my concern. So when we take land in lieu of a fee in lieu of, and that's at our option, and we have to approve what's being proposed, it has to be like kind to the rest of the property. So here we have 4 other highly viable building lots. And now we have a non-viable, non-buildable lot, in essence, being offered at the 15%, the minimum approximate requirement. And I don't look at that as like kind. Now you could say that the river access is desirable from a town standpoint. And I'd like to, but I'm more expressing concerns that this land doesn't really represent a proportional value to the rest of the land here. So
your subdivision regulations are pretty clear on that. I do not believe they refer to flood zone or not flood zone. They refer to steep slopes, wetlands, water courses, possibly easements. I don't have that language in front of me. So I can state that per your subdivision regulations, I did do the calculations, and it's on the cover sheet of our subdivision set that not only shows it as a 15% donation, it breaks down the wetlands and the uplands as per your subdivision regulations. So I would argue that based on your definitions of what those are in your subdivision regulations, that it is like kind land.
okay,
With the added benefit of
face value.
river frontage.
I don't concur, but that's for the commission to discuss, and whether or not they want to accept the proposed conveyance is sufficient to meet the open space. That's the limit of my questions. Anyone else on the commission have questions? I'd like to open this up to the public. If there's not anything else,
Rick, would it be okay if I asked a quick question?
please. Yes.
Wes, or anybody, has the fire department indicated that the installation of a dry hydrant is substantially preferable to the current method that they'd be using to get water from the river?
I don't know the answer to that question. I would assume so, but has that statement been made to me, or I've not asked that question, so.
I
I
can
know-
I can make a quick comment on that.
Please.
The advantage to a dry station is the filter and everything is already in place and they put it in the ideal spot versus dropping a line in with a floating filter. So, and it's a faster setup than, because you got a hydrant that you just plug into. So it is a preferred method to getting water from a river or a pond.
Thanks, Rich.
Any other questions or comments from the commission? Okay, I'm going to open this up to the public, but because we're in full screen mode here, I can't with my interface.
Would you like me to stop sharing, Rick?
No,
Yes.
I'm going to log in from my desktop computer. So I have another session so I can see all the faces. Bear with me just a moment. Sorry. That said, members of the public, if you just want to speak up and then state your name, and then we'll sort it out so we can go on with public questions or comments. Anyone from the public? that
No.
want- Joan?
Is there a way to,
Please, Joan, please state your name and address for the record.
right, I'm looking for the raise your hand icon and I can't find it. Anyway,
you're-
my name is,
You.
because I can't see anything but his map. Anyway, my name is Joan Hill. I live at 23 Carrs Mill Road in Columbia. And I'd like to address mostly the open space portion of the parcel. I'd like to thank the owner for proposing to set aside a large part of the Hop River Mills historic site. But as pointed out in Mrs. Stahl's memorandum, the configuration of the 3.6 acres that are proposed would be greatly improved by the revision that she included in the motion in your memorandum, in your handouts. So if it included more of the historic site, it would allow the town to better protect this very important asset and give better access to the public as well, to the riverfront area. So I have a bunch of slides that I think would be very meaningful to your commission in terms of the importance of the site and the options for accessing both by Lot 3 and by the public, the open space portion. So if I can, I'd like to share my screen with you.
Okay.
I assume I have to stop sharing, Flo?
Yeah, they can't see them.
Okay. Photos. Oh, this is not going to work. It's my albums. Here we go. Okay. Oh, wait a minute. That's not going to be very okay. Okay, can you see that and can you hear me?
We can hear you, but we can't see. If you're trying to share your screen, you're not doing it yet.
Okay, let me hit done. Maybe that, can you see it now?
Yep.
Yep, coming.
Excellent. Okay, so this is an advertisement that was published in 1796 by the owner of the parcel that we're talking about, and I'll read you just parts of it. This person is selling a sawmill, grist mill, fulling mill, and ironworks standing on the river running between Lebanon and Coventry, together with a coal house, clothing shop, and all the apparatus for making iron and dressing cloth, also a small house and 10 or 12 acres as a mill lot. So this is just to show you that this parcel has been used for important industrial, early industrial uses from about 1720 on until about 1920, so for 200 years. Now, the question is, how do I change this slide? Just a minute. Rats.
You may need to stop sharing and then pull up the
Oh,
next
oh.
one,
Oh, no, really?
I think.
Oh, okay, well, that'll work slowly. Darn. I don't-
Do you have it as a PowerPoint Joan, or?
No, I have it as an album of my photos, but it's not
Okay.
letting me bring up the whole album. What if
No, I
hit
don't think it
preview?
will.
Well, it's showing
it-
number one. Let's try, no, done. Drat. Switch camera is no good. All right, I'm stopping sharing. Yeah, I'm sorry about this. This is not my forte. All right, I'm going back to share content. What if I go to screen and access everything on your screen, blah, blah, blah. Oh, man. Sorry, sorry. I got that one. I should think I'd be able to get the other ones the same way.
Joan, if you pull up on your screen, not in Zoom, but on your desktop, pull
Right.
up the picture you want to show, and then go in and show, and then say
All
share
right,
screen.
I'm trying that now. Okay, let's try that. Can you see it?
No.
Oh, great. Well, okay, let me go back to Zoom and see if,
We'll give it about another 30 seconds and we'll have to.
I'm
move on.
sorry, I'm sorry. Okay, well, I'm just gonna have to
Can't do it.
talk, which is very unfortunate because these pictures would make things so much clearer for you all. Okay, well, anyway, the point being was that this has been a mill site for many years. There were more than one single mill there. There was the mill that you saw or you were told was over the underground flume, which is the flume in question. There was a second one on another flume, and that watercourse, for some reason, is not shown on the developer's maps, but it runs between the underground flume and the river. And on that, there was another mill, okay? So anyway, so these all existed up until about 1920. And the other thing, I hope you're gonna have a site walk, because if you walk in from the road along the area the developer has cleared to make it viewable for buyers, you'll see there's foundations right under your feet as you walk to these flagged areas for the open space lot. So there's many features that are still visible. If you go there, there's a very large retaining wall that you see from the bridge on Hop River. If you ever look downstream, you'll see a big wall on your right. And in addition to the stone arch exit of the flume, there's also remains of several other buildings as were mentioned. You also have on the flume that is not shown on his map is another very early dam of the ironworks. And the state archaeologist has a report on that, but hasn't been able to pull it out in time for this meeting. So what I really wanted to show you, and I'm going to try one more time while I'm talking, if that's okay, is this map that I made that shows how both the public and the owner of Lot 3 can cross way below the point that he now has his flag at, which is above the stone arch. And also I want to point out there's a very large tree above that stone arch. So for him to go around above it, it's going to be a wider area than he's thinking. But anyway, so below the opening, the stone arch opening, there's a small little, I guess you'd call it a pond of about 10 feet wide where there's still standing water. Then there's an area that's been filled with debris that probably is 10 feet wide. You can stand on it, but it's a steep descent from the bank on either side. And then there's more water, about 20 feet long. And then you come to a much larger filled area that's probably 25 feet long as far as covering the flume. And that's the area that I would propose the line cross. So in other words, if you had a line drawn from the street flag to that point where the wide fill crossing is, and then rejoins the other lines that were already in place for the south side of the open space, that would include a great deal more of the important historic site than we're getting now. And it would also allow the owner to cross on that same section, okay? It's plenty wide for, a vehicle, although you might want to bring up more fill if you wanted to get it, flatter. So I'm sorry about the pictures. I'm going to work on it while other people are talking.
I suspect that this public hearing will get continued to our next meeting. And so if I could suggest, if you have pictures and maps that you want to
Yeah.
present, just get them to our land use office so that they can have them ready for them to share with us.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, wait. Rick, give me 1 second. I think I've got it. Well, all right, here's the album. Okay, I'm going to show you my final picture. So what I just described is nothing to do with the, oh, please come up. All right. Okay, now what did you say to do before? Just hit done. Okay, can you all see that?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
thank goodness. Sorry, I'm just not good at this. Okay, so now we're looking at the open space parcel on the top edge of this drawing. And you can see red and blue spots. So the red spot is where the stone arch exit of the underwater flume is. The first blue spot is what I just described, a little bit right below there. There's a little gap between the two blue dots. That's where there is some fill. You can stand on it, but it's not a good crossing. And then there's this larger area where I wrote filled crossing. And that's the area I propose be shared or with an easement or whatever it takes to allow both the public and the owner of lot 3 to cross. Okay, so the revised line that I would love to see is this green line. And again, you'd have to take off the eastern part of the proposed portion or of the open space to compensate for that. But I also want to point out that you have to realize that this lot goes to the middle of the Hawk River. So as someone just said about it being, what's the word, representative of the lot as a whole, there's a quite maybe half an acre at least that's submerged land. So on top of all the wetlands, you're getting a part you can't use in any way, you know, as far as people being on it. Okay, so that's the gist. I'm sorry, I'd love to show you more of the pictures, but I don't want to take more time. So thank you.
I appreciate.
Well, I was just going to say one thing, that if you are going to approve anything tonight or between meetings, I would ask that the new, if you guys pass the motion that calls for a revision of the open space, that you ask the engineer to reflag that line and let there be a public site walk in the interim so we can all see exactly where it would go, so we can comment on it accurately. Okay? And the same thing with the easement. If he's going to have an easement that's a dedicated passage, I'd like to see that on the map as opposed to just talked about like 10 feet wide or something. Okay, thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to comment on this? Joan, if you could stop sharing your screen. So
I certainly can.
Great.
I'm
Is
good at
there,
that.
I'd
would
like to comment.
Judy, I recognize.
Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think it was last Wednesday, I met Joan over.
Judy, Judy.
Oh, Judy Ortiz, 15 Columbia Landing. Sorry. In Columbia. I met Joan and Ian Dunnick over at the site just to get a sense what it was like. And there's the spot, the area that we want to include has a beautiful stone foundation that has been there for 200 or 300 years. And it would be a shame if, you know, the town wasn't given that part of it to you know, just to help to maintain the history of the place, because there's a lot of history over there. And you know, if it's open space, anybody can walk through it. You know, I can appreciate concerns, but I'm not sure why he feels he couldn't walk through it. Because, you know, it's open to the public and he still could access the river, and he'd want to be able to access the river. It's really nice over there. But I would support it as the president of the Historic Society. I would support including that in the package. It would just add to our, you know, the history of Columbia, maintaining the history of Columbia.
Okay. Is there anyone else who has something that they would like to comment on? Ingrid, Ms. Wood?
Hello, thank you. I'm Ingrid Wood, 322 Route 87 at Columbia. I'm the town historian. And this is actually an important historic site, the site of the earliest mills of Columbia or of Lebanon Crank. And they were Gilson Mills in the 19th century. And I'll spare you the details of the history here, but it's an important history for the area and Connecticut. But the one question I have for Wes, and thank you for an excellent presentation of the entire subdivision, is Lot 3 is on a very steep slope. It's swampland. You said it's a lot of wetland. What area of Lot 3 is actually buildable? It is the 100-year floodplain. It just looks like such a tough site.
Would you like me to answer now, Mr. Chairman?
Please, that would be great.
There's a upper terrace that's to the west, away from the river, away from that swamp to the west, between that steep slope and Hop River Road. There's a nice high upland gravel plain, I would call it. It's a former agricultural fields. It's somewhat brushy, covered now with autumn olive and a few other scrub brush things, but it's still walkable. We did test pits down 8-9 feet. There was no groundwater. There's in this area. This is where all lots 2, 3, and 4 are. No groundwater, gorgeous gravel. You could build a town road sub base out of this gravel to come out of there. I mean, it's working in that industry is beautiful. They don't see that too often anymore. So there's a very developable area of Lot 3. A large portion of it, I would agree, is swamp, is floodplain, is down by the river. It's a 13-acre lot. The minimum lot area required in Columbia is only 1 acre, and Lot 3 has certainly more than 1 acre of buildable land. So,
Mr. Webb,
How large is that buildable area in acreage?
I can give that to you. Just give me one moment. It's on my cover sheet of my plans. Lot 3 buildable area is 48,900 square feet, so approximately 1.1 acre, 1.2 acres.
is Mr. Wentworth, is that the area immediate to the east of Lot 2?
Correct. To the rear and east of Lot 2, yes.
Okay.
And the buildable area minimum for the zone is 30,000 square feet per your regulations. And as I said, we have 48, almost 49,000 square feet.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from the
Bill has a
public?
question. Ingrid has a question.
Okay.
This is a follow on. Thank you. Ingrid Wood, 322 Route 87. I'm the town historian. A follow-on question to the preceding discussion. I assume this is a residential development that you're discussing, Mr. Wes Wentworth, and that the Lot 3 non-buildable area would not be used for anything other than residential. Is that correct?
Certainly, it would be used for any uses allowed per the zoning regulations as of right. Anything beyond those minimal uses that would require permitting would have to go to the town for permitting. Be it activity in a flood zone requires a full, very extensive special permit review with this commission. Anything within 150 feet of the river or the surrounding wetlands near the river requires an inland wetlands review and permit, et cetera, et cetera. So again, the residential use would be to the west, and then it would just be, enjoyment of their property essentially.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the public, comments? Anyone? Okay. Yes? Anyone? Okay.
Done.
No other questions. I don't have any other questions as of right now. I would, if there's nothing else to be presented for this evening, I would like to, while we're in public hearing mode, review the reports of the Open Space Commission and any other formal correspondence about this from the fire department and so on. Paula?
There isn't anything from the fire department. They've taken a look at the site. They would have to sign off on, once it's installed, they'd have to sign off on it, whether it's a cistern or a hydrant, that it's approved and accepted by them, and it would perform to their standards. You also wanted other information on the Open Space Committee.
Yes.
Um,
So they've accepted what was proposed. They feel that that's sufficient. So the Historic Commission doesn't feel it's sufficient and the Open Space does. Help me understand exactly what the input that we're getting from other town agencies are.
The zoning the subdivision regulations are only ask for referral or recommendation from the Open Space and I believe also the Conservation Commission. It's a referral. It's up to the Planning and Zoning Commission has the final decision.
I understand. I'm asking what that input is, that referral. What have they said to us formally?
The letter was in the packet. I can read it into the records.
Read it into the record and I'd like to review that as a commission.
May 9th, 2021, a letter from the Open Space, Columbia Open Space Committee, Columbia Conservation and Agricultural Commission, addressed to the Columbia Planning and Zoning Commission regarding the Hop River Road 4-lot subdivision. Dear Ms. Stahl and Commissioners, on May 7th, 2021, members of the Columbia Open Space Committee and the Columbia Conservation and Agricultural Commission site walked the proposed open space set-aside portion of the Hop River Road proposed 4-lot subdivision. The commissioners found the property to be of a very high historical significance and worthy of protection for that reason alone. In addition, the property possesses significant natural resources, notably a riparian corridor on a highly rated watercourse, floodplain, wildlife corridor, fin fish, and woodland turtle habitat. This property could be valuable as a recreation facility. It has road access, room enough for parking, access to the river for canoe and kayak launching, and space for picnicking. It is also within walking distance of the Hop River Rail Trail State Park. In conclusion, the Columbia Open Space Committee and the Columbia Conservation and Agriculture Commissions respectfully recommend that the Columbia Planning and Zoning Commission accept the open space set-aside land if this subdivision is approved. Sincerely, Ann Dunick, Chairman of both committees.
Okay. Thank you, Ann. Thank you to the committees. And Judy, we had your letter here from the Historic Commission and we had your testimony. So in terms of what's being dedicated here, I would really hope that the approximate boundary as outlined by Joan Hill, it represented the amount that is conveyed to the town, adding that to the initial proposed amount to be conveyed that's proposed by the applicant. And then I think reasonably maybe providing a 25-foot right of way over the easternmost portion of that additional land for unrestricted access without prior permission necessary on the part of the owner of Lot 3 to gain access to the pathway going back there. But having those areas that are felt to be very historic and probably of the most value to the town as an entity, I would suggest that get added to the total conveyance. And I do respect the perspective of Mr. Wentworth with regard to whether he feels that this is a representative sampling of the entire land. I don't agree with that. I think that it doesn't have to be exactly representative, but in fact, because this is overwhelmingly not a buildable parcel, has nowhere near the economic value that the other 4 lots do. And that's okay, but it doesn't have to be exactly equivalent. But us asking for that additional amount to be dedicated, I don't think is at all a stretch, because I don't think it will in any way restrict access to the river for maintenance purposes by if we document it properly and if we put an appropriate right of way. And I'm suggesting a 25-foot one on that easternmost portion that goes from the the easternmost portion of that additional land dedication that I would request. And that would, I would be comfortable with that personally. I don't mean to speak for the commission. And suggestion by, help me out here. I made some notes here that it be documented, the right of way be documented on the plan, accurately documented, and that it be flagged, the open space be reflagged where it is proposed to be. And I would suggest that if we decide as a commission, that's where we want to go with this, that these were Joan Hill's recommendations, that those two recommendations be encompassed in the final plan. So showing the right of way with verbiage that is reasonable to grant access for the owner of lot 3 to get back to the river. And then also reflagging. Reflagging, I don't know if it's necessary. I would defer to some input from Paula Stahl and our other professionals and other members of the commission. So that's my position on this. I'd like to see that additional land that is approximated by that green line on the slide that Joan Hill shared with us. I think that would be a valuable thing for the town to have under its control.
Could I make a comment, Rick? No?
Please.
I would ask, I've walked the raceway, the water exit part, the open water. I would like to do that again to inspect this area that Joan referred to. I didn't pick up on it being there. Something being filled with brush or is filled in the past. We don't know what that is. And I basically want to be able to inspect it because I don't want to get into a situation where lot 3 owner would have to go back to a wetlands commission for a permit in order to make that a suitable crossing. So if I could,
Okay.
I think we're maybe open to what you're saying, but we have to make sure that the first.
And you know what, I'd appreciate if you approach it the way you suggest, because I don't like making last minute changes to a subdivision plan that we verbally on the fly approach. I'd rather document it so that it's easy for both the public and the members of the commission to understand exactly what's proposed without a long list of modifications. So that's the only suggestion I have here is having access per what the Historic Commission has requested. And all in all, it's a really well done presentation. You always do a good job when you come before us, Wes. And I appreciate how thorough you are, but that's the one thing I would like to address a little bit differently in this. And I'd love to.
Again, we just have to make sure that it's a suitable place, you know.
Yeah, and again, I think having the type of access by right of way over that portion, if we're dedicating more land to the town, so that the owner of lot 3 can get to where you're suggesting they need to get to. I don't want them to have to come before the town for permission to go on that land, as long as it's a right of way that the town is comfortable with. So if we can approach all of those, and I'd love to know how other members of the commission feel. I don't mean to speak for all of us. I was speaking for myself in this case.
I'd like to make a motion. Hello?
Well, what motion is this with regard to the public hearing?
Yeah, my
Sure.
motion would be to continue this to our next meeting.
Okay, let me just make sure there's nothing else that we want to bring out during this session. And then,
I want to bring something out, Rick. Rick,
pardon me,
I'd like to bring something up.
please go ahead.
There are a couple of issues that have arisen tonight. Obviously, the raceway, and we've talked for a while about that, and I think it's all well and good. I think we need a legal opinion regarding the cart path and the potential. I mean, we have a surveyor's opinion, we have an engineer's opinion, but we don't have legal opinion on that easement or whatever it is. So I think a legal opinion would be good. Changing subject, I don't like the idea of creating a subdivision where the barn, the existing barn is straddling the property line.
Yeah, you're cutting in and out, Bob.
I think that's problematic.
Could you just say that again? I didn't hear most of that.
The barn that straddles the property line, I think that's problematic. I think that needs to be resolved. Here's an opportunity to resolve it. And
Could I make the suggestion that Mr. Wentworth brought up, maybe a 5-foot strip around the perimeter of the barn for maintenance? We're not going to make it zoning compliant realistically without a significant taking of land. And if the subdivider, the applicant here is willing to do that, do you feel that that would be sufficient?
Yeah, as long as the barn's on somebody's property. I don't like it straddling a property line.
Yeah.
It's not right. And then the last thing that I would talk about is this dry hydrant. I think we need some kind of a letter from the fire department stating that that would be an acceptable solution.
Great suggestions. Thank you. I agree with everything.
Could I just read one thing into the record, Rick, if possible?
Please, yes, go ahead.
I followed up with the town administrator today, who the fire chief had met with, and he sent me an email, and I believe Paul has been on this as well, but I'll just read it in the record. This is from Mark Walter to me today. He said, I just met with Steve Postemski, who's the fire chief, and we both believe that a dry hydrant in Hop River is a better solution than an underground cistern. So we can certainly try to get something else, but I just wanted you to know that that was the last official thing we've had.
You know how this works. We take you at your word. So.
No, but I know
What,
someone did ask, did someone find that better than a cistern? And that email says that. So.
I
yeah,
saw the email, so I can attest to the email.
I cringe every time a cistern is needed because it's expensive, and we would rather keep the cost of development reasonable where we don't compromise safety. Again, I'm speaking for myself. I said we, I should have said I. Anyway, that said, if you could, some additional documentation, if you would come up with a proposal to draw a line around the barn and convey it, if that's acceptable, I think that's a very generous thing to do. It just also eliminates the liability issue for a potential lot owner at lot 3, but that's not a zoning issue. And the legal opinion on the cart path, Bob, I appreciate that suggestion. Paul, I would have to do that.
We would Bob on that cart path. I mean, if they did the typical title search of 60 years, this issue could go well before that time.
Okay.
I will pursue that. And do the members feel it would be helpful to do a site walk?
Yes.
Maybe once it was flagged.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah,
That's a good idea, Paul.
Okay,
so it'll have to be a formal meeting there.
yes. It's a posted meeting. Wes and I can communicate. Wes has asked for some time to do some homework, trudging through the sluiceway there a little bit and figuring out the lines where a good break would be between the two properties. And once that's all flagged, we can call a meeting that's a site walk meeting. One of the
All right.
things, we've not done a site walk since I've been here for almost 8 years. We've not done a site walk that I know of. One of the things to remember with a site walk as members, it's a posted meeting. You can ask questions. You can't pose opinions. The questions you can ask are, what is that?
We go over that when we have the
Yeah,
sidewalk.
right.
All right. I appreciate, this is very well done to this point. I'd love to address these questions that we have. And let's, Vera, you wanted to make a motion then to continue the public hearing to our next regularly scheduled time of our meeting, which is, help me out here, June.
It is June,
13th.
June 10th.
To June 10th at 7 PM. Okay,
And I will work to have, with Wes to see if we can't have the site walk prior to that.
Okay.
It's only giving us 2 weeks.
I'll second that motion.
Could I just get a little clarification for my homework, Rick?
Sure.
So I understand what everyone's looking for, so we can try to have this wrapped up for the site walk in the next meeting. We're looking to, first I'm going to inspect and see if there's a suitable crossing other than where I'm showing on the raceway. If that is, and it's acceptable to the owner, we would look into making that property line shown by a revision as shown by Joan and green on her map. Then you're looking to have me, in the long term, the filed subdivision maps later would have a designated right of way. Do you want to see that right of way, where that is for the next meeting?
Prefer to if we could.
So I'll be doing a few things on the run here. I can't just say where that's gonna be. What I would like to do is, if it's gonna be a right of way, and it seems like this is gonna be when we were out, when I met with the Open Space Commission, I got the feeling they were looking to have a car access and parking way and everything in there in the future. So we would probably just use their same, driveway, just have a right of way over it. But that was my thinking. But we can get into that for next meeting. And then you would like that flagged in the field and shown on a map. So I'll wait to hear when you're going to schedule your site walk. I got some work to do.
The other thing, from the 25-foot road frontage for lot 3, farther down on Hop River Road, if you were to go straight out that along the edge of the new proposed boundary that would be deeded to the town, and then make a northerly turn just before if it gets very wet, that's what I was thinking, on that right hand or easterly edge of that additional land that would be added. That might be acceptable, but you'll look at that, you tell us what you think. We want to make it reasonable, we want to make it seamless, we want to make it easy for the owner of lot 3 to get to the river, basically.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Okay.
Yeah. And then, so the other things, Paula, we're going to have our attorney look into, give us a legal opinion on this cart path.
Yes.
I'm not so worried about lot 3 in the cart path. I'm worried about the town land, but once it's in town hands, if you could pose to our attorney, if there's absolutely no chance that somebody can claim by adverse possession, but if there's a deeded right of way that goes back farther than was searched, that may still be a valid deed over that to be dedicated to the town parcel of land. And I would really want to know that with an absolute sense of certainty, what the legal status of that is. So,
Question, Rick, we're gonna have the town attorney do this?
yes,
Is this a reimbursable expense to the developer?
I believe, it's a good question. I'm glad you brought that up.
We
So-
can call for that. It's in the fee ordinance that for different opinions, which,
Right.
I wouldn't suggest that we do that if it's a quick reply. But this seems like it might take some research.
I would suggest that if we need to do our own more in-depth title search, if there's an expense for that we ask that be reimbursed. But if for a casual opinion from our attorney, let's just go out and get that. So if there's a need for more, and you can go to the applicant, if that's agreeable, we'll move forward. I think a title search typically is a finite amount of money, typically not open-ended. So it may not be that expensive, and it may not be that hard to gauge whether or not that's going to be workable for all sides.
I was wondering if Paula can make the date of the site walk available to Joan Hill and, everybody on the Historical Society as well as the Open Space Committee.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion. Thank you. And it is a public meeting, so everyone, the general public does have a right. I don't know if we need any type of hold harmless statement from the applicant to provide for access to the general public separate from the commission members. Paula, you can handle the details of that.
I'll handle that, yes.
Thank you.
Good point, though. Okay, and if you get a proposed new lot line that works, including the revision for the barn, and can informally send it out to us well before the next meeting, that would be ideal. Even if it's just segmenting the areas or highlighting the areas that are in discussion here, the areas near the old mill site and the area that encompasses around the barn as it protrudes into the lot 3. So, okay, so there was a motion, I seconded it, to continue the public hearing to June 10th at 7 PM. Any discussion on that from the commission members? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Second, unanimous? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you. That was very well done. I appreciate everyone's time. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night. Okay, under unfinished business, there is none because we still have the public hearing open on the Hawk River subdivision. Then we have 2 8-24 referrals for an acquisition of land by the town, the Wellswood property, and separately we'll get into 72. That's a land donation and the property. Paula, do you want to speak to these?
I will, I sent out material. I will share my screen.
Okay,
The same material that, can everybody see it?
Yep.
The property, this is on this map. This is our focus area for Wellswood that's outlined here. These are farmlands that are PDR protected. When the Ram family, and I don't know if it was David and Chris or primarily David Ram, did the Lyman Woods subdivision, which was this outline here. They were required to do to donate open space to the town. This is a blow up of that shows the wetlands that are on this property. This is the property that David Ram owns. And this is one of the most outstanding wetlands in our entire town as part of the Mint Brook watershed. The Planning and Zoning Commission, this was before my time, a number of years before my time, the Planning and Zoning Commission accepted as part of that subdivision this parcel, which is 35¼ acres, more or less. And it's the town, it's still owned by David Ram. The town holds the easement to ensure that it's a protected space. The property is, it's a rear lot. It's hard to access. It's been difficult for commission members, for the Open Space Commission to do monitoring because it is somewhat inaccessible. And there's been some concerns with ATV tracks in the wetlands. I can see it when I zoom in on the CROG maps. You can see ATV tracks in the wetlands. So David Ram is would like to purchase this, would like the town to purchase the actual property as to be part of the Wellswood properties and the incentive that's going on for expanding Mono Pond area. The town would like to purchase it, the land outright. The town had an easement, an appraisal done on the property. I don't remember the amount. It was 40,000, something like that. It is 35 acres, but it's wetland and it has easements that say you cannot develop it. So it's a fairly low value. The town would like to acquire it. One of the things that happens with town properties, whenever the town is purchasing or selling land or doing major work, they have the state statutes require that the Planning and Zoning Commission weigh in on whether or not it meets the future of the town. And I'm sure this was installed at some point when the town sold something that the Planning and Zoning Commission thought was a key piece of a proposal in the future. So it's a matter of just looking at it and deciding whether or not it meets the plan of conservation and development.
Okay, is that everything you have, Paula, on that?
That is everything. I did provide in the memorandum, which I believe is after that, these sheets that has a motion.
Yeah, let me, I'd like to speak to this. At the time that we approved this subdivision, a couple things were done by the Planning and Zoning Commission. I had to recuse myself because of a conflict at the time that the subdivision was approved. They allowed one of these lots that were created on Wellswood Road to have less than 200 feet of frontage. I believe one of the lots there has 175 feet of frontage, probably the one that's closest to the access strip. The other thing that the commission voted to allow was, for whatever reason, the Rams were not required to dedicate any land whatsoever to the town. They simply put deed restrictions on this large, essentially useless parcel. It has environmental value, but has really no recreational value to the town. It's about protecting a watershed. Correct me if I'm wrong, Paula.
No, that's correct.
Yeah, so there's absolutely zero utility value to the town. I think it's absolutely ludicrous that the town will spend its money to buy something that can't be effectively used just so they can control it, when it should have been given to the town as part of this subdivision at the time the subdivision was created, to allow them to dedicate it with a conservation easement. And it was almost certainly in PA 490 so that they weren't paying squat in taxes on it, but to allow them to retain title just to sell it to us later because we didn't ask for it and gave them concessions on this subdivision. I am absolutely aghast that the town would even remotely be willing to pay a dime for this. If anything, this should be conveyed at no cost to the town. I think they already gave up all of the development potential as part of it. It has no value. And whatever appraisal is on this, I mean, how much is a mud hole worth? You know, Tom, you're a realtor. How much is a mud hole worth? It's not even.
Rick, I totally agree. They should.
This
I wouldn't want
zero
them to
value.
dime.
Whoever did the appraisal on this, I would question whatever number they came up with, because this has absolutely zero market value. An appraisal is supposed to represent the market value of that property. This has.
Are they saying they had an actual appraisal done?
Yes, they did. And that's the appraiser was given, at least I provided to the town administrator, the language of the easement, the conservation easement that shows that David wanted in 3 tiers because he wanted to be able to, he had plans to use it for camping for the Cub Scouts and things like that.
I remember that.
So he had, I think it was 3 tiers of protection levels. But there is value because there's trail potential through here. And there's also the ability to have some parking at off of Wellswood. And this area has, we want people to come out here and hike, and there's really very limited areas where there can be parking. The process will be, the Board of Selectmen will call a town meeting, and it's the people of the town that come out to vote that particular night that either says yes or no.
Well, I would encourage the town not to be willing to pay a dime for this. Not a dime, you know, at $35,000, that's $7 per person in town in round numbers. That just, okay, it's not, but you know, it's absolutely that we as a zoning commission accepted this ludicrous proposal not to dedicate this land to the town when this subdivision was created. And we did give them a concession on a road frontage to allow for this access strip. or they would have gotten one less lot out of the subdivision.
Yep. We bent over, we did, yeah, we screwed up.
Yeah, it just, so that's my perspective. I would encourage the town not to buy it. I would actually vote against it, an 824 referral to purchase it. If it was to be donated, I would be in favor of it. And I don't think I've ever voted against an 8-24 referral.
Excuse me, Rick, what's the street frontage on this, Paula?
25
I
feet.
think it's 25 feet. It's either 20 or 25 feet.
Yeah, it's the 25 feet. It should have gone for the 200.
Yeah, yeah. We're here now, though, is the problem.
Yeah, so let's fix it now, you know. It was a massive concession that shouldn't have been made by the zoning commission then. And I just I can't see that it's a good move for the town to pay any money for this land. I just don't see it. And if the current owner isn't preventing ATVs from going on it, and motor vehicles are specifically prevented from going on it, per the covenants on it, and make him enforce those covenants if need be by legal action. But the point is, I think the town should not pay money for this. Yes.
Why would we want to take on that liability if there's ATVs running all over it right now?
Well, we would have more ability to get in there and have them stopped. You know, somebody would be able to call DEP and get their ATVs confiscated for going on prohibited land, but that's another. No, well, yeah, okay. Yeah, you're right. I don't mean to say that in a way that sounded condescending. You're 100% right. But the point is,
yeah, well, we've already paid for the appraisal. I think that's enough.
I'm against the town acquiring this land. If it wants to be donated, that would be just making up for the concession that we gave them when the subdivision was done.
I think with the
Has a question?
The
How much
8-24 doesn't
taxes are
really.
paid on this land?
Pardon?
What's the tax? How much taxes are paid on this land?
I don't have that at my fingertips. I can look it up while we're here if you want. Let's see if I can calculate it out. I can get the appraised value,
You mean the assessed value?
the assessed value. Well, they actually have both, but yes.
Right. But that's the one you're going to need for your multiplications.
Yep.
Sorry, everybody. I know you like short meetings, but
And
this sticks in my craw.
Yeah, when I first started in the town and I saw this, I kept saying, what, huh? How'd this happen? But we're here now, and I can understand the point of not wanting to purchase, pay money for it. I certainly do understand that. But I don't know that the 8-24 is more saying, is it appropriate for this to be owned by the town? And the answer is yes. Paying money, I agree 100%. The appraised value, the assessed value is $59.30. So the taxes would be based on $6,000 basically. It's in PA 490.
So it's not a huge loss to the tax base.
No, no.
Okay.
Been 10 years since then, huh?
Well, I'm asking the commission members now, what do you suggest as a course of action? I voiced my opinion, but that's just my opinion. What would you like
Rick,
to?
I think you should recommend to the town that they do not buy this property.
Yeah,
If
agreed,
it's given to them, they can accept it, but not to pay a dime for it.
agreed. That's my point.
I think we can vote on that tonight.
Well said. So,
I think Ann
let's-
Dunnick wants to speak.
I'm sorry.
Ann Dunnick wants to speak.
Okay, Ann.
Can you unshare the screen?
Oh, sorry.
No,
I can.
okay.
Thank you. That's better.
Hi, Ann.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. And I would just like to say that what I think the reason this has come to the Planning and Zoning Commission is not whether it's a good idea to buy it, but does this property meet the high standards of open space according to the PLCD. And how you vote in the town meeting is your business. But what you're doing tonight is, what you're voting on is this a worthy piece of open space according to the plan of conservation and development? And speaking for the Open Space Committee, we want this. And we would have loved it if the Planning and Zoning Commission, when you approved that
And everybody there,
subdivision,
Ann, okay?
if you had taken it
Ann,
as the
I'm-
open space
hearing you.
set aside.
I don't know if it's on your
But that
end.
isn't what happened. And so now the only way to acquire this is to buy it.
Or have them donated.
Well, he didn't offer
Ann, I
to
appreciate what
donate
you
it.
said. And I respect it. And I think that as a commission, maybe we're gonna get to a point where we suggest that the town acquire it. But with pretty much the recommendation going along that the town pay no money for it, because that is gonna be a town decision.
Right.
Okay,
As I recall, they were not willing to give up the 35 acres. That's why we couldn't get it last time, if memory serves me correct.
Yes, that is correct.
again, I have to
And
plug my
30
head in 2 or 3.
And the amount of land is way, way more than the 15% acquired, that would be required as the open space. So it's a larger parcel than that. So, if they donated the amount that would have been the 15% open space set aside, that might be reasonable. But as
And
far
wouldn't
as,
to just 15% of unusable, of land that's otherwise unusable. It just, per the conversation we had with the applicant on the
Right.
subdivision this evening.
well, whatever. But it's a beautiful wetland and it should be protected. And it would be a very nice piece to add to the Mono Pond expansion. That's Open Space's recommendation to you. That's why we hope that you will approve or recommend that it meets the conditions of the POCD. Thank
Okay.
you for letting me speak.
Anyone else?
Yeah, if this property is so valuable and not developable, then why does the town have to own it? Why can't we just leave it to the Rams? Let them own it. What's the benefit to the town of owning it if it's completely undevelopable?
I think Joan has something to say on that. Joan?
Right, a couple things. I just sort of want to, I was on the Open Space Commission back when this was considered. And at that time, our town planner convinced us or argued that getting 34 acres under an easement was better than getting 7 acres of outright land. So that's how it turned out. It was what the town planner urged upon all of you, okay? But as far as acquiring it now, I won't address the value because that's up to the town and so on. But the Mono Pond State Park expansion sorely needs an area where people can park off of Wells Woods Road. There was a parcel offered to us down near where the historic site is, just past Island Woods on the right, for $68,000, which would have been a parking lot, which is considerably more than we'd pay for this. And aside from having a little bit of area for parking near Wellswood Road, there are trails on it, thanks to the ATVs, that connect it to another old road on the other side of Mint Brook that belongs to Jake's at the moment. And at some point, he's going to finally get that land subdivided, and we are hoping to acquire that portion. So it does provide connectivity to a other area of the Wellswood area. Also, the Silverstein property, which is just south of Lyman Woods, is another parcel that this abuts on, the easement abuts on. So I just want to point out, it's not isolated in that sense. And it is quite beautiful if you walk it, okay? It does have a rocky uplands where you overlook the old historic mill pond. And I think you'd find it beautiful. So yes, it isn't buildable. You can't improve it because the easement will still be in effect, but it does meet some of the needs of the open space plan. Thank you.
Joan, where would you park on this? Because there's a 25-foot access strip.
Is it
You can't-
25 or is it 50?
I believe it's 25 feet.
Okay.
I believe it's 25 feet. So you could,
Well, you'd have to have-
drive in.
You'd have
uh,
diagonal parking on one side of it. That's what you'd have to have. Yeah.
No, that wouldn't fit. That wouldn't meet regs. But you go in,
I
if
don't-
you go into where it expands out, you'd be able to get a little bit of area of parking in there
Right.
before you get into the wetlands.
That's much harder to monitor when you have people
Correct.
out of sight. So, okay, well, I won't address that. That's the zoning issues. I'll let you deal
I
with
don't
that.
even know if the current deed restrictions on there would allow for a parking lot. This was not to be developed and used except as raw land. So that said, why don't I make a motion that we approve the 8-24 referral for the Ram Wellswood property and leave the word acquisition out of that motion, with a caveat that the Planning and Zoning Commission strongly encourages that this land be donated and that the town not spend any money to acquire it, as this was put under the current deed restrictions in lieu of a land dedication when the subdivision was made. And the idea that the town would pay money now to acquire it when it could have required it to be dedicated at no cost when the subdivision was made is a patently bad idea and not in harmony with the approval of the subdivision that was granted at the time. Does that sound acceptable to everybody?
Do we feel confident enough that the deed restrictions are not strong enough and that we recommend that the town own the property?
It'll be the same deed restrictions on it after the town owns it. The
It-
town just have title to it and not collect taxes anymore on it.
The town can change the conservation easement language on it. And one of the things that may happen is it may end up being in state hands, depending upon how the Wellswood area morphs over time with properties. And they would have their own language that they would want on it, which would be strict conservation easement. So
Let the
this,
state buy it then. Why do we have to buy it?
that's not a
Here's-
question for me.
I could speak to that. May I?
Please do.
The intent is to flip it to the state. However, the state, using the fund that the state is using, which is a conservation fund, they can't purchase land that already has an easement on it, a conservation restriction. They wouldn't be able to do that. So but the town can do that. We can purchase it outright from our undesignated fund balance or our open space. Well, no, we wouldn't even use that. We're going to have to pay for this out of the undesignated fund balance outright. because of the conservation restriction on it, then we can flip it to the state. The state can then go to the Attorney General and alter the easement. The only way you can alter a conservation restriction or an easement on conservation land, according to the Attorney General, is if it is in the public's best interest. And the conservation restriction that is on this land is a very, very poorly written one. First of all, the 3 tiers is a joke. It has loopholes in it you could drive a Mack truck through, like putting a camp on it and things like that. Plus, it has no public access. So if we give it, and if we give it to the state with that easement, they will turn around, the Attorney General will say, we want public access. That's in the public's best interest, you see? And so they will remove or alter the conservation restriction. It's very convoluted. We've had the best advice from the Trust for Public Land on this and
Diane,
their lawyers.
I think we're in theory, we're in favor of the town gaining title to the land. We just think it's ridiculous to pay any money when we waived them paying the fee when they did the subdivision and gave them a lot of concessions.
And
So
I hear.
So I would like us, I have a motion on the floor for us to endorse the 8-24 referral to take title to this land, but add to that the comment that we strongly encourage the town not to spend money on it. How does anyone feel about that motion?
That still has to go to the town to be voted on to allocate that money, correct?
I just want on record as the people who created this giant loophole saying, let's use some common sense about this land. So we still give them the referral. They can still do what they want with it, but we have that verbiage attached because it expresses a concern, at least that I have. Any support for that? Because if there isn't, we'll just do an approval for the acquisition of the 824. I'll withdraw my motion.
No, I hate to see the state, I hate to see the state get involved in it. I just do. You know what Ian was saying, if we could, flip it to this, I just think it would be a mess. We'd lose control as a town in terms of access to that property too.
I don't understand what you mean.
Well,
I'm not proposing anything other than we shouldn't spend money on it. I'm saying the land is valuable. Yes, as a planning and zoning commission, it fits our the plan of conservation and development, but we shouldn't spend money because we already gave them the concession.
I know.
For us to spend money.
The problem, Rick, the problem I'm having with it is that maybe we just, we screwed up. And maybe it's worth the 35,000 just to be done with it and get it back in, again, in our open space. Well, that's my opinion, Bob. That's just my opinion.
Rich?
Well, like Ann said, isn't that all going to eventually go to the state as the state park anyways? So I kind of agree with you. We shouldn't spend any money on it.
Okay, what's your pleasure? Because I don't want to belabor it. This has gone as far as I think we should discuss it this evening.
I'll second the motion then.
Is anyone in favor of us approving this, but suggesting the town shouldn't spend money on it? I'm in favor. I'm going to call any discussion. All those in favor of that motion.
Yeah, I'm in favor.
That would be
Aye.
1, 2, 3, 4. Vera, what's your call there?
No,
You're not in favor of my motion?
right.
Okay.
So
Who else is not in favor?
me,
Tom?
Yeah.
Who else is not in favor? Anyone? So is that 4-2?
Alex, how did you
I'm
bet?
abstaining because I don't know enough about the
Okay, so
history
that's
of it.
4-2. My motion passes as presented. Next one up is the 8-24 referral for the donation of the Ram Tungus property. Again, here's land that, you know, I think we should endorse this. The problem I have with this is there's an access strip that was promised to the town when this subdivision was created, that connects with the former Aramini property that was supposed to be deeded to the town as future expansion land for road access to a possible future subdivision. This was very poorly handled by the then town planner. It was allowed, and the land was subsequently sold to the Rams by Mike Delay, the developer, without ever having deeded that promised land to the town. This would be an ideal time for the town to correct the screwing that we got when the subdivision was created.
There's an easement on that strip that says it cannot be used for anything but a road. And I agree with you 100% that it was poorly handled by one of my predecessors.
The concept was firmly spoken to the Planning and Zoning Commission. This was what, 19 years ago, 20 years ago, when the subdivision was done. And we modified the subdivision regulations to allow active adult communities. When this was done, it was clearly explained that with the Mylar filing, that strip of land that is the extension of Tungus Lane should have been, or the maybe not the extension of Tungus. I don't have the map in front of me, Paula.
It's a road strip, a road stub, we call them, that would lead into the property on the north side that was supposed to be deeded to the town. I have not read the
Wickford Road.
Yes. Yeah.
So that being said, it was promised to us. It was never given to us. A subsequent owner bought it without us gaining the appropriate title to that road stub. And now I think the town should own it. It would just should be part of this transaction where the town says, if you're going to deed this land in back of this lot, deed the stuff on the road that was supposed to be deeded a long time ago. Again, it was a screw up on the part of the Planning and Zoning Commission and the building department, not allowing this to move forward without getting that dedicated when the Mylars were filed. It's a time to fix it. So I would suggest that we make a motion to approve the referral for the donation of the Ram property and strongly encourage the town to require the Rams to fix the defect in the ownership of the road spur at the same time. So we'll endorse this donation, but add verbiage where we ask that the town correct this error. So it's not going to be binding on them.
And for Paula, the proposed new home site that's being peeled off from this land that's going to be given to the town,
Yes.
was that part of the original subdivision approval?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just FYI, I was involved with this property for a short period of time when I had somebody who was interested in buying the proposed lot that was there, but they've since withdrawn their bid to purchase the lot. So I have no connection to the lot right now. If anything, it probably makes me more familiar with it. And it's come up other times. So if we can get the town to know in no uncertain terms, yes, take the donated land. No, thank you, Mr. Ram. But as far as the road spur, that should also be tendered to the town because it was always supposed to be. But
There's a very strong easement across that nothing can be done on that property other than a road.
That's not
Currently. I mean, it's not the proper way of doing it.
so let's try and get them to correct it. You know, when we identify a screw up, how many times do we get to revisit a screw up from 20 years ago?
I hope you won't be
Right.
saying this 20 years from now when I'm gone.
You know, So I'm not,
Apparently,
don't-
apparently quite a few tonight.
Well,
The,
yeah, we're doing pretty good, Vera.
I believe both road spurs are in easements.
you
on
know,
that.
with the way our building department is run now, this wouldn't have fallen through the cracks. You know, and that's a compliment to you, Paula. But it did fall through the cracks. And if we can correct it, please do that.
Do you have any?
Don't saying that as a condition, just saying, approve the referral for the donation of the Ram Tungus property and add the comment to the Board of Selectmen that the road spur that was supposed to be conveyed by the original developer and never was, that the town should strongly request that the person making the donation write that error in our conveyance in the past. And that's how I would put the approval to the town. Just approve the 8-24 referral, but tell the Board of Selectmen that there was an error that we made and they should make an attempt to correct it.
I only want to say, when you say we made, it was the town made, not the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Correct. The building department did not follow through on appropriate follow-up on the required dedication of this land. And the developer didn't do it, and the building department, the then town planner did not do that job. It wasn't you, Paula. It was a condition of the approval of the subdivision. It
And
just,
nobody followed through on the conditions.
there was also supposed to be a large berm between the senior center and the condominiums there and a large berm for sound attenuation. There's also supposed to be a walkway from Wickford Village
Walkways also.
to your center. The developer did none of that stuff. Well, we don't have any ability to affect that. How many times does something come through our fingers a second time? And this is not really in our fingers. This is an 8-24 referral. So I'm just suggesting that we make that recommendation to the Board of Selectmen.
Okay,
So I made my motion. Do I have a second on that one?
second,
Any
Tom?
discussion?
that was Tom.
Tom? Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, that approves unanimously. Thank you.
So there were no abstentions and no dissensions? Just
Correct.
making sure. Okay, thank you.
So I'm gonna just suggest we wind down the meeting. We've gone long enough tonight. Anything pressing under communication reports, Paula? over
We
some-
added an agenda item there.
Well, I'm passing over item 8.1, the
Yes.
sub,
Yes, of
regulate-
course. Yes, no, there's nothing under 8.1.
anything on open discussion anyone wants to bring up? And then audience of citizens, anything from anyone?
Excuse me, Rick, I wanted to follow up on last meeting's conversation about Mrs. Dubé.
Yes. Oh, so we had emailed to us on,
Rick, we're
think-
doing this under executive session.
yeah, that we're gonna have to
Okay,
close the meeting to the public and go into executive session. Thank you, Paula. So with that said, we will close any audience of citizen items that you would like to bring up. Barring that, then we will close the meeting to the public and have a discussion.
Joan has,
Oh, well,
Joan? Yes?
I had a question about the RAM donation, the last thing you considered. I just wanted to know if the trail that's shown on the map that was in your packet, is that something that it says it's his goal. Is he going to construct this trail? What is the,
no, he's not. It's something that we would either apply for a grant to do, and it's wide enough so that we can have some switchbacks, the wide enough area so we can have some switchbacks on the steep areas of the trail. It's a goal, but it's been a part of a town goal.
right,
And
it's not a condition of the donation or anything?
no, it is not.
Okay,
Okay.
and the quote, existing trail also shown on that map?
Yes,
It's across the front of the Wickford Village property?
yes,
that is not an existing trail because they, after Mr. Delai failed to convey that to the town, the owners of Vicarage Village became very negative about having the public cross their property. So that would be another stumbling block. All right, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Joan.
Mm.
Okay, Ingrid, did you have something? No. Okay. I appreciate those comments, Joan, because yeah, the way things were handled is vastly different now than it was half a generation ago. Okay, so with that, we're going to close our regular meeting and go into executive session. I just want to thank all the members of the public and all of the wonderful testimony. I appreciate all of your time.
If you could please exit the meeting and Flo, can you?
Thanks, Joan. Okay.